So we are now back in the Intune Admin Center, and we'll look to tackle the first requirement, which is the deployment of new Windows 11 devices, and to make the actual deployment streamlined and easy. So for us to do that, we go into Devices, we go into Windows, and Enrollment. Once you are here, you scroll all the way down to the bottom and look for Deployment Profiles. We'll click Create Profile and Windows PC. We'll give a name to our profile and also Autopilot. We click on Next. We will select our deployment mode, which will be user-driven. You can select self-deploying, which typically is associated with pre-provisioning or white glove services, which is when you provide a manufacturer, such as Dell, or a third-party hardware provider, access to your environment via GDAP permissions, and they can connect to your Intune environment and add the devices to your Autopilot for self-provisioning. But for now, we'll keep it as user-driven. We are choosing to join the devices to Entra ID. This can be hybrid Entra ID joined as well if you have a local AD, but for now, we'll keep it as Microsoft Entra ID joined. We'll be hiding the licensing terms, the privacy settings. We are choosing to hide the change account options. We want them to just sign in to our corporate account. And we are choosing to give the user a standard user account. You can obviously give them admin rights. I advocate against that unless there is specific requirements, but even then you can create separate configuration deployment profiles for those users and single them out via security groups. For now, we'll keep them as standard users. The allow pre-provision deployment is no. We are not doing pre-provisioning right now. We are doing a standard Autopilot deployment. The language region will be English, United Kingdom. So if you scroll down, look for that one. And as you can see, you can select any language. And this is where you can have multiple profiles based on multiple different user types and regions. But for now, we're keeping it as English UK. We want the keyboard to be automatically configured, and we are not applying a device name template for now, but you can do that by selecting yes. You normally would add an acronym such as Contoso and the serial number as an example, real number. What this will do is any devices that are built will have the first initials of Contoso and then followed by the serial number of that device. But for this example, we'll keep it as a no. We go on next. We're going to be applying this Autopilot profile to all devices. But again, you can build specific Autopilot deployment profiles for specific groups of users or regions. For now, we'll do all devices, we'll go on next, and we'll do create. What this has done now is this is going to be our Autopilot profile that the devices will be initiated into, and the policies and applications that we'll be configuring following this will be automatically applied to the devices added to the Autopilot. So the next requirement is compliance and security. So if we go over to devices, we scroll down into compliance, and we have three specific requirements. So what we'll be doing is we'll select create a policy. As you can see, you have many different types of devices. We are obviously focusing on Windows 11 for now. So we are selecting Windows 10 and later. And we are selecting create. We'll give a name to our policy. So Contoso Win 11 compliance policy. We click on next. And the three requirements are first BitLocker. So we go into device health and select BitLocker. The next one is require a password to unlock. So we go into system security and require a password to unlock the device. And the next one is actually within the same section, which is antivirus. As you can see, there are many options here that you can configure and set your compliance and policy to monitor your devices or any devices connecting to your environment. For now, these are the 3 settings. If you do have any questions, please pop it in the chat and I'll be answering them as we go through. So if we go on to next, we can choose an action for non-compliance, which typically we choose to send an email to the user. So if their device is found to be non-compliant, it will notify them. As an example, we are using here a template that we created earlier that basically lets the user know that your device has been marked as non-compliant. Please contact the service desk to resolve this. Regards, IT support. You can also select a group of users that this can be sent to. So as an example, we can send this to the SOC team. So they are aware of the non-compliance of this or any device that gets marked as non-compliant. We click on next. Again, we are assigning to all devices, but you can go into specific groups if you wish to do so, or you can exclude some. Then we click on next and we select create. So that's our compliance policy created. The next requirement is the deployment of Microsoft Office 365 and Adobe Acrobat Reader. So for that, we need to go into apps, all apps, add. On the app type, we scroll down to Microsoft 365 apps, Windows 10 later. We select that. We can name it or change the name. We'll keep it the same. For now, we can choose to go next. We can choose the apps that will be deploying to the devices. Again, we'll keep it simple. We'll leave all the apps selected, but you can really go granular and just deploy Outlook if you wish, or just Teams and Outlook. But for now, we'll deploy the 7 selected apps. You can add any other apps to the package if you have a license for those, such as Projects Online or Visio Online. We will need to choose the default format for the files, which I always choose Office Open XML, but it's down to you and your requirements. The update channel, I highly recommend to go on the current channel. You get the most up-to-date and most reliable updates on the current channel. You can remove any other versions of Office if there are any on the devices installed. You can actually specify a specific version of Office that you want to install. We're going to keep it to the latest. And you can choose whether you want to use a shared activation key for Office on these devices. If you are working on a hot desking environment, this might be an option. Obviously, this is going to go to a specific user, so we'll keep that as a no. We'll accept the license terms on behalf of the users, and we are not enabling Microsoft Search in Bing. Personal choice myself, I don't really like Bing, but that's an option for you if you like. And then we have to select the language, which is going to be English. We click on next. Again, we are assigning it to all users. The same premise applies. You can assign to a specific amount of users or specific users or a specific group. You can apply to specific enrolled devices. And if you actually wish to uninstall Office for a specific group or all users, you can actually add the group on the uninstall option, and Intune will automatically uninstall the app from that device. This goes from any app that you will be deploying via the apps service in Intune. You can install and you can actually uninstall by targeting the same users. We go on next. You can review and create. We'll go back onto apps, and now we'll be installing and pushing down Acrobat Reader. So if you go back to the Microsoft Store app, select, search, Adobe, and select Adobe Acrobat Reader. Unfortunately, you don't get as many options to customize what's being pushed down with Adobe. All you gotta do, you can upload a logo if you wish, but for now we'll keep it simple. We'll push it to all devices, next, and create. So that's Adobe, and that's Microsoft 365 installed and pushed down to all devices. We now have a requirement to create a BitLocker profile to enable BitLocker across all devices. So we'll go to create a policy. We go to Windows 10 and later, select BitLocker and create. We'll call it Contoso BitLocker. And there are many options here that we can dive into. For the sake of this session and time, I'll be just simply enabling BitLocker. I'll allow warnings for disk encryptions, for other disk encryptions, and I'll actually configure the password rotation for your Azure AD joint devices. What this does is it refreshes the password for your BitLocker key and actually adds that password to the device in Intune. So when you actually open the device in Intune, you'll be able to go to the BitLocker tab and you'll see the latest key and password for that device. We will go on next. We are not configuring tags right now, so we will just keep going through. We'll assign it to all devices and click create. The next requirement is an AV policy, so we'll go over to AV, and this is one that you can spend a lot of time configuring it. There are a lot of options. We'll try to keep it simple for this session. Anti-AV policy. Go next. We'll be configuring the most basic ones for now. If you have any questions or you don't understand any of the settings, you can always click on the little eye on any of the settings, to be honest, not just AV, but anything within Intune. You can click on the eye. It will give you a little bit of an explanation and a breakdown of what that does. But for now, we'll keep it simple. We'll be enabling archive scanning, behavior monitoring, cloud protection, email scanning. We'll skip scanning on network drives and remove all this. We want to scan those, and we'll turn on real-time monitoring. Again, there is a lot here that we can go into, and we can spend a lot of time breaking each one down. If you do have a specific requirement or you want us to take you through, I'm more than happy to jump on a call with you to go through your requirements or any questions that you might have following this webinar. Just reach out and I'll be happy to assist. But for now, we'll go and click on next. We don't have any scope tags, and we're gonna target all devices again. Next, and save. So that's our AV policy created. And the last requirement is the update. So if we go to devices, all the way down to Windows 10 and later updates, as we mentioned earlier, there is quite a few features and different options that you have. But for now, we'll be creating an update ring. So we select update, create a profile. So we'll create a Contoso / update ring. Go on next. We want the Microsoft updates. We want Windows drives. We want the quality and feature updates to be installed immediately. We don't want those to be deferred. We don't want our Windows 10s to be upgraded to Windows 11 on release, unless you know how you are deploying these updates and you know who you're deploying them to, and they are already Windows 11, in which case you don't have to enable this, but just be very careful with this option because it can force all devices connected to Intune and associated with this policy to upgrade to Windows 11, and it can be a bit of a nightmare. You can set an option to the number of days that you can actually uninstall the update. I always recommend setting this to 30. We will not be installing pre-release builds. Those are always trouble. And the requirements is to auto install on the maintenance window, which was 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. We'll keep all other options. This, the other two that I normally would change is I don't want the users to post Windows updates, and I don't want them to be checking for Windows updates. I want the update ring to manage that for us. Once that's been configured, we click on next, we assign it to all devices, and we create a policy. And with this, we've created obviously a very basic base of policies. As you can see, there is a lot of options. There is a lot more that we can do, but hopefully this gives you an idea on how you can configure Intune. And if you do have any questions or require any assistance, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.